Hello and welcome back to another episode of the MMF Films podcast. I am Paul and this is my co-host Nick. How we doing today, Nick?
I'm doing great because we're talking about my favorite animal today, the monkey.
Monkey! My favorite animal too. I even have one on my body.
That's
Monkey.
crazy. That's specifically very cool.
I
That's
know.
specifically Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah, that's the one I saw when I was a kid. I also really like the one from the 30s, but I have
hmm
a nostalgic memory for watching the Peter Jackson one. It was like first grade, and I had all the action figures and stuff. It was a good time.
No, for sure. I love that movie too. But today we're actually talking about the newest Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And we're going to go into detail a little bit about the older ones too, but mainly this newest one in the franchise.
Yeah, definitely. So uh, you saw it at the Chinese theater in Hollywood. What do they call it? The Dragon Theater.
No, No, I just walked by it and saw like the premiere. Like they set up the giant like monkey around like the head of the theater and they had it all like decorated and stuff and it looked cool. No, I just saw it at a boring AMC.
Oh, that is awesome. All right. Well, do you have a before we get into specifics? Just like what was your general summary like reaction walking out of the movie? Were you like, "That was amazing. That was good."
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. It was definitely I think it might be on par with War, the third one in the last trilogy, but I thought it was mostly good. I was feeling pretty high on it, but before I went to see it, you actually gave me some criticisms you had of it. So I was sort of like, oh, what's that going to be? And not to spoil what you're going to say, but I started to kind of see it from your perspective a little more as I was watching it. And I do see where those criticisms can come from. And I don't know. Overall, I still like it, but I can see it being a disappointing experience overall.
Yeah. Uh, to summarize my experience, the first 45 minutes to maybe even the hour mark, I think more like 45 minutes, I was really loving it. I was thinking this could be my favorite entry in the franchise. And as the time went on, it got longer and longer and just kept going. And the things I wanted to see, fleshed out didn't really get fleshed out. And they started to focus on other things that I didn't want to see and didn't find as interesting. And the characters that I really liked, I felt like they didn't focus on. Characters I didn't like got focused on. So, and it also felt like there was a lot of studio manipulation. Like there were certain requirements of the studio that were very evident, and I didn't like those requirements as well. And I'll get into that with more detail. But overall, I would say honestly, dude, like a solid 5 out of 10. Not a solid, just like a 5 out of 10. Like there were some things I really liked, but I probably wouldn't watch it again. And I was like low key kind of heated when I left the theater.
Damn, heated? Seriously?
Yeah, because I was really excited, dude. I really like Planet of the Apes, and I thought this was gonna be the first movie that was like just apes, and the focus was the apes and creating a civilization and how it should be run, and it's just focused on that. And that's what I was really hoping for, and I felt like they set that up really well for the first 45 minutes, and then it took a completely different turn, and that's not what it was about.
Yeah, so going into the movie, what I'd heard about it as it was being like discussed in the lead up was they kept saying it's set like 300 years after the last movie, and I was hearing it's going to be about the legacy of Caesar, who was obviously like the main character of the last trilogy. And I thought that was very interesting because when you watch those movies, he sort of becomes this like religious like figure to these apes, this like savior character, and so it's interesting to see as this world like becomes dominated by these creatures now, like how he and like what he did fits into all that and how that comes to be. And I do kind of agree with you. That was sort of an interesting element of it, and they end up not really living up on that so much in this newest one.
That was not only an interesting element, Nick, that was by far and away my favorite element of the movie. And it was something that I was hoping would be the main focus of the movie, like discovering, relics or teachings of Caesar, and just talking with Raka, the character that's a priest of Caesar, and just learning more and more about how apes should, live their lives. And uh, damn, I can't say that. Spoiler alert: my favorite character is not in the movie for too long. I was really starting to become attached to this one character, and they just kind of write him off immediately. And I thought maybe he would come back at the end because we don't really get a confirmed death. It's just kind of like disappeared. So I thought maybe he would come back at the end, but he doesn't. So that was disappointing as well. But it's just the best part of the movie was the whole, Caesar's impact on this many generations later society of apes, and how different apes would perceive the words of Caesar. And we do kind of see that a little bit, but it's not the focus.
It's like they made two different movies. So like it was the first half is about like Caesar's teachings and like, like the main character in this one, Noah, like has never even heard of him. He has no idea who Caesar even is. So he's sort of learning about him as it goes on. And you find out this other clan, Proximus Caesar, believes in Caesar heavily, but they warp his teachings and alter it to fit their own agenda. And as it goes into that, you start to think that's what it's going to be. It's like a clash of ideas under the same like idol, same figure, but it does kind of devolve back into human versus ape, which I think there's potentially something you can still do. I think there's,
There
but
was, and it was called Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and it was a great movie. We're past that point in this universe. It was supposed to be the ape story.
mhm.
That movie's fantastic, and now looking back, we have 4 movies now. I think that's the best one in the franchise of the reboots. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
No, for sure. I rewatched like all three, and Dawn like blew me away. It's just a perfect like post-apocalyptic masterpiece. It's such a great action movie. It's such a great drama too. Um, that
And you feel
entire
for
like
both
final,
sides.
no, for sure. It's like uh, it's a great movie that like makes you understand every character. You see where they're coming from, and it's just like a really well made film. Like it's not even like good for like a summer blockbuster. It's just a great movie in general. Like I keep thinking, I can't stop thinking about that raid on the human camp. And there's just this one particular shot where the camera is set on the tank and it's spinning around. And I was like blown away the amount of fucking monkeys running around the area, the amount of like work put into that one shot. It was insane. It's one of the greatest shots in modern filmmaking. I was blown away by it. It's a great film.
I love that assault on the human base. And then um Koba, the evil ape.
Koba's a great villain.
Yeah, and even though Koba's evil, you still see why he's evil. He was tortured by humans like basically his whole life. And he gives Caesar an element of respect for a long time. It really takes like to the second half of the second movie to break his opinion of Caesar, or to stop listening to him. So he's a very fleshed out character for like an ape that barely can talk.
No, it's great. It's like a Shakespearean tragedy about monkeys, and it works. It's effective because they're just really well developed characters.
Yeah, and I liked Noah in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I thought he was a good character, and I really liked his 2 friends that were in his village. and we didn't really get to see a lot of them. They were in the beginning, and then we didn't get to see them till the end.
His friends were one element that I found disappointing, just in the sense that I didn't like them that much, and I liked characters like Raka and Proxima Caesar a lot because they're very big and interesting, and those characters apparently die off. Those could have been great characters for your next trilogy of films because they apparently see this as a 9 film saga. But we're left with Noah, who's kind of interesting, and his two friends whose names I don't remember.
I like the whole like eagle culture thing too. I thought that was cool how the apes evolved in different ways and different cultures celebrate different things, and they had like the eagles or the hawks or whatever as part of their tribe. And even like my favorite part of the movie is when they come back with the eggs and they show how it's like a rite of passage for an ape to come back with an egg that they found, and all the baby monkeys come up to them and they're like, show us the egg, show us the egg. And then when he takes it out, there's a shot of all the babies and they go, ooh. That was my favorite part of the movie by far. They just all look so excited. They're like, ooh. Do you remember that?
No, I loved it. Yeah, they just dump you into this world with this new culture, and it was really interesting to just learn about it as it's going on. Like they're just climbing trees at the beginning. You're like, why are they doing this? And they're like stealing eggs. And it's like, are they going to eat them? And it's like, no, they're getting their specific eagle to raise from birth, and that's like their companion for life. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I just really wanted it to be
And Noah's
about
like
the
bad.
apes. That's my biggest
Yeah.
complaint is that the movie was supposed to be about the apes, and then the human character comes in. She's not likable. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Is she just naturally immune to the virus? Is that what's going on? I don't know. It's just like it felt like the studio basically said we need a human plot. You can't have a movie with just monkeys. And they're just forced. She was just forced into the movie, in my opinion, at least. It didn't feel natural. It just felt like it was shoved in. And you know
Yeah,
Frank
I don't
Gallagher
know.
from
I
Shameless?
think, yeah.
He was the worst part of the movie. He's a great actor, but his
Whoa.
character added nothing to the movie.
What do you mean? He agrees with you. He says to the little girl, he's like, you got to stop thinking about the way things were and think about how they are. He was like monkey forever. He's totally on your side.
Yeah, but like I agree with what you're saying, but the only reason that character is in the movie is because they said we need a big name human actor in this movie. We can't just have monkeys. We need another
Hmm.
human. It because what did he really add to the plot at all? Because she still did everything that she was going to do anyway. Nothing changed because of him. He just kind of stalled the movie for like 15 minutes, giving speeches and stuff.
I think he was to show a human siding with the ape culture, and that like not every human is gonna still be like on the human side, or I don't know. I It's very perplexing to watch because the ending leaves you like with a tease that's very like calling back to the really like original 60s film, and you're sort of like, oh, are they doing this already? But I that doesn't make sense to me, and I'm still interested in seeing where the next film goes, but it's very like the way it ends is very like, oh, we're still kind of stuck on this stuff.
What are you talking about?
They're like looking up in the telescope, right?
Yeah.
What do you
What do
think they
they
were
see?
looking at?
Oh, are you implying they were looking at the
I
spaceship?
imagine they saw. Yeah, that's what I thought. Maybe I'm
Oh,
wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering something.
I thought they were just like discovering something to do with science. Like they were just like discovering like the humans were intelligent a long time ago, basically, with that scene. It would be pretty hard to see a spaceship in the sky with a telescope, I feel like.
I don't know. This movie's not committed to that much realism already.
Or at least they would have like given us more evidence to believe that. I thought they were just discovering like an invention from the humans and being like, wow, the humans were pretty smart.
Maybe, I don't know. But my point in general was that I'm not quite sure where the next one's going to go. I'll still see it but I'm short of like, is this just leading to another battle between humans and apes? Like, what's the next move? I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure.
I don't want that. I'm so over that. I don't want it. I agree humans should have been a part of this story. I think it should have been a argument between the good tribe and the bad tribe over how to deal with the feral humans. And I think maybe the bad tribe just wanted to slaughter them all or use them like slaves, and then the good tribe would want to, let them be in harmony. Maybe not like live with them, but just let them do their own thing and not bother them. I feel like that could have been an interesting element to the story. Like the one tribe follows Caesar's teachings, and the other tribe follows a warped version of Caesar's teachings. Apes together strong, apes kill human. Something like that. I feel like could have been a more tight and less all over the place version of the same story.
I think so. I think it could have worked.
They set it up perfectly though. Like I
What
said, the
else is
first
there
45
to
minutes
talk
were pretty
about?
flawless. And then it kind of went downhill. When they were doing that scene where the girl was like going to blow up the dam and everything, I was like falling asleep, dude. I was just like so over it by that point. The movie, why does every movie nowadays have to be like 2.5 hours minimum? There's no movie that's like a nice clean hour 45, 2 hours. Like it's always so long.
No, that was one of the best parts of rewatching Rise, is seeing it was an hour and 47 minutes and then just breezing through it and being like, oh my God, we're at the end already? This is amazing. It was so fun to just go through it again. I could watch it right now. It's that good.
I like Rise a lot. Yeah, Rise is great. And you think now with the TikTok generation, they'd be making movies shorter. It's the exact opposite. There are people can't even watch a minute long video anymore without going next, 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 or having to have like a GTA 5 car going down a ramp to keep like you entertained, or have the screen flicker and change lights. So why do they think making 3 hour, 3.5 hour, 4 hour movies is a good idea? You know?
It's for the lovers of cinema and monkeys. It's for me. It's only for me.
Well, I agree. You could have a movie that long, and if the plot is good enough, I'll be entertained through the whole thing. I'm not going to say I won't be entertained, obviously, but the plot wasn't there for me on this one, and it felt like there was a lot of scenes that could have been cut. There was a lot of like dead air.
It's funny you say that because apparently there's like 40 minutes of the movie cut. And I feel like the issue they might have faced is they might have just written too much into one story and just had too much in general and had to cut it down and make something kind of coherent, and it doesn't really like come through properly. It's sort of just
It's
two
almost
different
like there's a character
themes.
that just enters the movie and takes over the entire plot and makes it worse and ruins everything.
Yeah.
I really liked the evil Caesar. He kind of, you know what he kind of gave me? He gave me Waterworld vibes.
He reminds you of the
Like,
deacon.
yeah, like the rusty boat and everything, and all the followers like going like Caesar. It was just I know it's a silly comparison, but it kept popping into my mind while I was watching
No, you're right. He's living on this metallic structure right by the water. No, no, I see it. I see the vision, the water world comparisons.
that. The instrument to our salvation. We go through that door. The humans' inventions we will take for us. Compare that to we will find dry land. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. They just rewrote Waterworld and hired a bunch of monkeys to act in it.
You're right. They ripped off Waterworld. Kevin Costner, do something.
Waterworld's underrated. That'll be an episode one day.
It'll just be you talking about Waterworld and me being like, "Oh, okay."
It's definitely not the worst movie ever. You can at least admit to that. I've actually heard
No,
people
the
say
main
that.
thing I don't even. I only watched it the one time you made me at college, and the only thing I remember of it is specifically a scene where Kevin Costner takes like a 9-year-old girl and throws her into the water. And I was like, "What the fuck is happening right now?"
That was awesome. She just got a little too annoying, and he's like a savage. He's not even really like a normal human because they're in the post-apocalypse. So he just goes, "This creature is bothering me." It just throws it off the raft. Die. I like the music in that movie too. It's a really good score. Remember when we saw the live show together? The Waterworld live show is awesome, dude. Remember when we saw that together? That's probably the best thing that came out of the movie.
Yeah.
I like the movie, but the show is the best.
No, it's great. It's an incredible stunt show. I remember you flew out to Los Angeles and you were specifically like, "Let's go to Universal," and we managed to get in for free, which like even better. And then we just
I
first thing we
know.
went to the Waterworld show.
Yeah, dude. What luck, dude. I land in LA. I had no idea that you lived right next to Universal Studios, like literally like 10 minutes away. So when we drove past it, I was like, bro, why don't we just go? And then when we were waiting online, some dude and his family had a Groupon, but they needed at least 6 people for it to work. And they only had 4. They're like, can we get these 2 guys in for free? And we're like, hell yeah, you can, dude.
No, we were literally in the middle of buying tickets. And we just like walked away from the ticket guy as he was like charging us up. We were like, "Bye." Walked right in the park.
So epic. And then straight to the Waterworld stunt show. It was just it was meant to happen.
Yeah, I remember I sent you that one clip of like all the people in the bar cheering and they're just watching the Waterworld plane crashing down and everyone erupts into joyous applause.
Sometimes they don't do the plane. That malfunctions because one time I saw the show and there was no plane.
Terrible.
I know. But we saw the plane. Anyway, back to the monkey movie. I could talk about Waterworld all day. But yeah, it reminded me kind of like Mad Max, kind of like Waterworld. He was a good character. It was the peak of his ass getting career. He just died way too early. If only, he could have made it to a next movie, probably could have fleshed him out a little bit more. He doesn't really come into the last third, and he was like all over the trailer. That right there already rubs me the wrong way. Whenever a villain doesn't come into like the last third of the movie, it instantly kind of turns something off in my head about like caring about them.
No, yeah. He was definitely like the most like noticeable character in all the marketing. Like he was even like the what they used for the Chinese theater like set piece when they set it up for the premiere. And then he's very underutilized. I'm sure they left a lot on the cutting room floor of that guy. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's open ended for him to come back. He's another one who just sort of fell into water, but like
But he
him
fell off like
is
5
less likely.
stories.
He'll survive.
I'll survive. But yeah, dude, he was all over the trailer. Like the only time I feel like you could get away with something like that and make it really work is if the spirit of the villain is built up throughout the movie. I thought the gorilla was the main villain up until we met the other Caesar. Remember how the gorilla was leading the
Oh
evil
yeah,
tribe in the beginning?
oh yeah, he shows up a lot.
Yeah. And then
He
and then
gets a
we
better
find
death
out.
than Proximus Caesar.
And I didn't like that. It's funny you brought that up. I did not like that. That bothered me.
Which Proximus's death, or which specifically?
No, the gorilla's death and Noah watching him die. I thought Noah should have tried to save him.
Oh,
I thought Noah's character and all the lessons that he learned about how apes shouldn't kill other apes, the whole point of like his character development is to be like the teaching, the passing of the torch for Caesar's teachings, and he literally just watched another ape die. I get he just tried to kill him, but maybe they could have wrote like in the humility of like being saved by him. Maybe the gorilla has like a turn of heart But no, he just like watches him drown, and then there's like no character moment there.
He is not ape.
Did he actually say that? I don't remember.
No, that's what Caesar says when he kills Koba.
Uh or he could have said that. That would have been cool. I wouldn't have understood the reference because it's been a while, but if you just told it to me now, I would have appreciated that.
Did you see all the memes people were making where someone on Twitter was like, Koba should be in every movie? And then people were just photoshopping him into like every movie. So like Pulp Fiction, when Sam Jackson and John Travolta have guns, they put Koba right in between them. Or like
That's
Scream, Billy and
awesome.
Stu right on top of each other. They just put Koba right behind him.
That's great. No, I haven't seen that. That's so funny. I just
They're so
rewatched
good. I'll
Pulp
send you a
Fiction for
whole
the
bunch
first
of them.
time. For the first time in over 10 years, dude.
Oh shit, really? I'm actually gonna see it this Friday at the New Beverly Cinema. My first Quentin Tarantino movie there. I'm really excited for it.
Hell yeah, dude. The crowd's going to be nuclear for that. I have a lot of weird opinions about it. On one hand, it's like one of the greatest movies ever made. Like every scene is so encapsulating. Like the dialogue, the pacing, just the everything is just so perfectly written. The thing that he tries to do like artistically, like showing different scenes in different orders, I think works in some cases, but I don't really like the last scene being the last scene. I just don't think that it ends on the strongest note. I feel like the peak of the movie is like the Marcellus Wallace and the Bruce Willis storyline, or something else like the heroin overdose. The surprisingly, the holdup in the diner doesn't really do it for me as much as those other scenes do.
I like how it ends. I like. I'm gonna rewatch it soon, so maybe I'll have different thoughts. But I really like how it ends because I think it really ties it all together. The way I mean, you see, like you follow those two guys, Sam Jackson and John Travolta, the whole movie, and then you find out one of them quits and one of them doesn't quit, and the one that doesn't quit fucking dies, and then we see Sam Jackson sort of explaining his new philosophy, and I just think it's sort of interesting as a way to end the
Yeah,
film.
no, you're right. You're right. It is a good way to show like the reason why he took the right path, in life. But I just thought the other scenes emotionally like peaked a little bit more and were more like exciting to me. And I always like to end on the highest note, or at least the most emotional note, even if it's not the most action packed note. I feel like the climax of the movie is very important, and I felt more emotion from some other scenes. But I can't argue with Quentin Tarantino. He usually always makes the right choice. That's why he's one of the best.
No, I don't think you would want to argue with Quentin Tarantino. He might harm you.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's why I'm the director. You said, because people always talk about me and they say, I have a huge head, and that's not really true because I don't. See, it's because my head is actually huge. When I first watched Norm Macdonald's tape doing that, I was like crying laughing.
What a treasure, gone too soon.
I know. Ranking the franchise, I didn't even rewatch 3 because it was so sad. It was a good movie. It was just too sad for me to want to rewatch. I would go 2, 1, 4, 3, 4, 3 tied maybe. I don't know. And then I would put the original Planet of the Apes. I would put like number 1. I've seen it like 10 times.
oh,
It's one of my favorite movies from the '60s.
oh, damn! I didn't know you liked it that much. 10 times? That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, over the course of my life, like I don't watch it like every year or anything. Maybe not 10 times, maybe like 7 times. But my uncles and stuff would always talk about it. So, and then when some of my friends' parents were into it, so I feel like through osmosis, I've seen it like from when the age of like 6 or 7 to now, at least like 6 or 7 times.
For me, like with the benefit of hindsight, I like understand that the original movie is like iconic sci-fi film history, But as a kid, I had no idea what the fuck it was. I never heard of Planet of the Apes. The only inkling I ever got of it was the ending of Spaceballs, where the Mega Maid crashes onto the beach and it looks like the Statue of Liberty scene. And these monkey people come up and they're like, oh shit, Spaceballs. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
There goes the planet. That's a good scene.
Mel
Um,
Brooks included every sci fi reference he could.
yeah, Rod Serling, the guy who wrote the Twilight Zone, actually wrote the original Planet of the Apes. I'm not sure. You probably knew that, right?
I found that out recently and I was blown away. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, because if you really think about it, all of the elements of Twilight Zone episodes are kind of in Planet of the Apes. It's kind of like one big Twilight Zone episode. There's like the creepy
I can see that.
masks,
I can see.
yeah, the monkeys, the great makeup, the amazing twist ending, the shock ending on like kind of like a bitter note of shock.
No, I can see Rod Serling just standing there being like, imagine, if you will, a planet of apes where humans are the apes and apes are the humans.
Yeah, because the plots of the Twilight Zone weren't always like monsters. Like sometimes they were, but like the apes, Planet of the Apes could easily slide into one of the episodes. So pretty cool. And there's even some elements that overlap. There's a Twilight Zone episode where somebody travels through time in like a pod, and they do it with somebody else, and the other person's pod malfunctions. And when the one person wakes up, they see their friend as like a skeleton. That happens at the beginning of the Planet of the Apes. So it's kind of like he took like something from one of his other projects and just put the same thing into the movie he was writing.
That's awesome. What was that one episode you showed me where they were like, there's a bunch of people in like a cylindrical like room and they like couldn't get out unless they tried to climb out? What was that one?
Oh, I think it's called Five Characters in a Basket or Five Characters Trapped or something. It's literally like a simple name like that, but it's a bunch of action figures that are sentient and they're stuck in a trash can.
That's fascinating. Interesting.
Yeah,
I liked that episode.
creepy
It was
idea.
cool.
Yeah, it's one of those like bottle episodes where it's like all in one room. It's not one of my favorites. I'd say it's just a classic one, but it's not like my go-to. But I hadn't seen that one since I was a kid, so I wanted to rewatch it. Do you have a favorite Twilight Zone episode?
No, I haven't seen as much of it as you. I've seen like one time I saw an episode where they had like a camera that could print pictures like a few seconds from the future, and they used it on horse racing, which Tony Soprano could have used that camera. To be honest with you,
That
I don't even
show,
remember how the episode ends. I just remember they used it for horse betting.
the music on that show is like the music on that show creates the disturbing feeling so well. When I was a kid watching that show, I would be terrified. It was on like TV Land all the time, and I remember having like that cold, like shivering, not like physically, but like that like I don't feel safe watching this. Like it's so creepy, and obviously some of the episodes are a little dated now, or they're not as like scary as some things we have today, but they planted the seeds for a lot of horror that we know now, like Talking Tina. That was probably the first haunted doll piece of media, or at least film or TV show that we had in America. It it walked so that movies like Annabelle could run. I know Annabelle is a real doll, but I'm saying that whole kind of genre, Chucky, it was kind of inspired by Talking Tina.
No, you're right. It's a hugely influential show.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of great performances from really famous actors before they were big. William Shatner famously is in 2 episodes. He has the one with the demonic wishing machine. It like tells you your future, and then also the classic thing on the wing. Burgess Meredith is in an episode. Mickey from Rocky. Have you seen that one?
No, what does he do?
He's a bank teller, and he's like abused at work. Like all of his bosses and stuff, they're always very mean to him, and he never has time for himself. And one day he's working in the safe, and an atomic bomb goes off, and everybody dies. And he comes back out, and he's like, "Oh, there's time for me to read my books now. Now I don't have to wait in line. Now there's nobody to be mean to me." But yay! And at the end of the episode, he's at the library, and he's like, "There's so much time to read books," and then his glasses fall off his face, and then he can't like read, or he can't even really see anything. And he goes, "But there was time now. But there was time. It's not fair." And then the camera like pans out to Rod Serling. It's like he's basically trapped in a world where he can't see anything now by himself.
Cool. I feel like that's a show I need to actually watch through, or at least some episodes. Maybe not every episode, but a good chunk of them.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, well, I guess we can kind of wrap this episode off. I mean, we're not the biggest Planet of the Apes fans in the world, so we don't have like too much to say, but we should definitely think of some topics for upcoming episodes. One thing I really want to do, let me know if you're interested, is I want to do like a sequel tier list. I want us supposed to write down like a I have a sequel tier that I've been working on for like years mentally, just like the kinds of sequels that exist. And I want us both to just write down like
Okay.
a bunch of sequels, and then we do the tier list together. I feel like that'd be really fun.
I'm down for that.
All right, cool. That'll be, if not our next episode, because if we think of something else, we'll do that, but it'll be one that comes up soon.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, brother.
Awesome. If anybody's still listening, I appreciate you, and subscribe if you haven't, and we'll have more content on the way. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your night, Nick.
You too, Paul. Apes together